Stuart Bloor and I'm chub fishing. I'm on the River Severn and this will be my third video stroke article in recent weeks. Really been into my chub fishing of late, particularly here on the Middle Severn, and if you are a regular follower of my videos in particular, you'll know that I haven't been able to complete them because the weather took a really sharp downturn and the camcorder stopped working. But one thing I can guarantee on this session is that that's not going to happen because it's quite mild today. But will I catch a fish? I don't know. All I can say is, as I always say, I'm confident. Confidence in itself doesn't put fish on the bank, but if you go out expecting to blank, then you won't be disappointed. So I'm confident. Let's see how it goes. I'm set up, I'm ready to cast out. You can't see the full length of the rod there, but it's a Fox Duo Light Specialist. I have a pair of them. I bought them a few years back, specifically for my perch fishing, but with the quiver tip insert, the options that are available there, I also use them for roach and here for chub as well. I've got a 0.75 glass insert in the end, and I'll be sticking an isotope on later when it gets dark. I've got an Okuma reel, just a fairly cheap reel there, Okuma Xeon, 4-pound line, Maxima, used it for many years, and I'm one of those people that works on the basis, if it's not broken, don't try and fix it. So it's never let me down. I have confidence and faith in it. That's an important thing in fishing as well. And then further down you can see my cage feeder. It's a 20-gram cage feeder, and then I'm fishing a size 6 hook, and I'll be putting bread on that and in effect bread mash into the cage feeder. I've also added some blue cheese and garlic to the bread as well, and that's well soaked in, so that's going to give it a little bit of an additive. And my hook length, I would say, don't measure it of course, but I would say it's about 9-10 inches there. And I've created a very simple hook length. It's the same line that runs right the way through, and all I've done, as you can see there, I've nipped a couple of shots on and I've put a bead, and then above it that just goes on there. And the reason I've got a couple of shots is because it's a small bead, a 5mm bead, so the size 6 shot that you can see immediately below it, the bead will cover that, and then the slightly larger shot below it, that will hold it all in place. You don't need to go complicated. Sometimes we have to develop our rigs, but I'm of the argument that we start off simple, and then as we progress, if we need to, then we can start tinkering around with things. Sometimes, just like tackle catches more anglers than fish, sometimes rigs and setups can be so complicated that they catch more anglers than we need to really, because they look good and we think they're going to work for us, when in effect something simple like this just to start with. So my advice really, my tip, is not necessarily to disregard fancy rigs, because they are important. We do need to develop and be aware of those things, but in a simple situation like this, cage feeder for chub, just a very easy, straightforward approach works, and it's worked for me. I've had chub to 5 pound, 15.5 ounces lately, so I'd love to catch that 6 tonight. Will I? Well, who knows, but we've got to cast out and see, haven't we? I'm at the point now where I'm ready to make my first cast. There's the cage feeder, as you can see, bits of crust as well in there, and there's the business end, just a piece of ordinary simple bread. Before I came out, wife knew I was going chub fishing. She went straight to the kitchen, got me 4 slices of bread. She knows what I want. I'm fishing now, still a good couple of hours before dark, and as you can probably see behind me, yeah you can, I'm looking at the screen there, I've got my landing net, and that's positioned so that certainly once it gets dark, then if and when I do get a fish, then I'm able to just drop the net in the water and bring the fish to the net. It's important, particularly night fishing. I go through so many different issues relating to it, from safety right the way through to practical things, and in this video I'll mention a few of these practical things. The place I'm fishing isn't a recognised peg. It's not one of those dugout places or a platform in front of me. It's just somewhere that I've set up. In fact, it's quite a steep bank, and my chair, I've pulled the back legs in, as you do, and pushed it into the bank so that I'm set up like that. So it's not really comfortable, but it is safe. That's important. But I've got everything laid out around me, and I've done it now, even down to knowing where my head torch is, because if you're not careful you keep thinking, oh, I'll get the head torch out, and you don't, and before you know it, it's dark and you can't find it, and you're really in a pickle then. I've also put my isotope on now as well, a couple of hours before dark, so that I'm totally set up. I know where everything is. Fishing as I do on a regular basis, I tend to keep things in the same place anyway, even down to my rod rest just in front of my feet. My rod is literally there. I don't even have to stretch to pick it up. So once that tip goes, once the isotope starts to dance around when it comes dark, or maybe before dark, once I get into that fish, I've got everything here where I want it, even down to baiting up. You can't see, of course, because it's all hidden from the camera, but my bucket is just down there. In fact, my bucket is where I've got the butt of my rod. It is positioned just where I want it for the river. So that's my tip really on this particular video, or one of them should I say, because I'm always trying to include tips in the videos. Just make sure everything's at hand so you know where everything is. That's a Severn Valley Railway you saw there, and I just hooked into a snag, and it turned out to be a mussel, so there's a good chance there's a mussel bed out there, because I pulled one of them in, I prized it away, didn't know what it was of course when I hooked into it. Could have been underneath a rock, my cage feeder could have caught under a rock, could have been a clump of weed, could have been anything. It was actually a mussel, so that's nice to know, or interesting to know at least, isn't it, because it helps to build up a picture of the swim that we're in. Had a good pull then, and I'm into a fish. The ones I've been catching on here so far have sometimes been like small barbel. They've gone off on a run, and this is no different. Definitely a good chub. Bringing it in. As I said earlier, my net's there, so it's all set up. Looks a nice fish. I haven't been catching many, but I haven't had one under £4 yet. So I think that says it all about this particular place. I've just dropped on some nice fish in the net. And do you know what? This might be the first one under £4. Fancy that? Yeah, it's not £4. At least I've had one for the camera though. After a couple of chub sessions without a fish. For the camera, of course. And there it is. Nice chub. Not a monster, but definitely worth catching, and I'm not a blanker. Let's get it back. I was pleased with that fish. I'm now fishing again. I'm watching the isotope out there in the darkness. Really happy to catch that. The smallest one I've had from the stretch. It was a 3-pounder plus, so a good fish really. Just not not the 6 that I would have loved to have caught for the camera. That would have been brilliant. But the video now comes to an end. I often say that, don't I? Video comes to an end, but the article of course continues. My angling journal consists of a video, which you've watched now, and an article which usually goes on for another 2-3 sessions depending on what I'm fishing for and all that sort of thing, of course. But I do intend to get a few more chub visits in, so if you want to know how I get on and if I do catch that 6, then of course read the article. If you're on Twitter, then follow me on there, because that fish I've just caught will be tweeted in a moment when I finish filming, so you can keep up to date with my angling adventures that way. And if you're on Facebook, I do have a Facebook page, and make sure you like it, and you can connect with me on there. I don't reply to YouTube comments, just a time thing really, nothing personal. But if you do want to make contact with me, then get onto my Facebook page and I'll reply to you on there. Tight lines.